In an interview he gave with News Nation last night, former President Donald Trump said that if he wins in November, he would revoke the temporary protective status granted to Haitian migrants in Springfield, Ohio.
In Springfield, what's happening there is horrible. You have a beautiful community, 52,000 people, and about 30,000 people were put into that community rapidly. And the community is so nice, and they want to be so politically correct. You have to remove the people. You cannot destroy, we cannot destroy our country. You had a beautiful, safe community. Everyone's in love with everybody. Everything was nice. It was like a picture community. And all of a sudden, in a short period of time, they have 32,000 more people in there. They are, in my opinion, it's not legal. It's not legal for anybody to do. It's not even on a human basis. It's not acceptable to the people that are there, and certainly to the people that are in Springfield. Springfield is such a beautiful place. Have you seen what's happened to it? It's been overrun. You can't do that to people. They have to be removed.
Let's be clear what this is. Trump is saying he's going to deport legal immigrants. Joining us now, MSNBC contributor Mike Barnicle. Mike, thanks for being here. So let's talk about Trump's rhetoric on immigration. I mean, most of what he said there is simply not true. And despite being told by fellow Republicans, including the Republican governor of Ohio, he just will not let up his relentless and frankly racist bashing of these immigrants.
You know, when we were showing that clip that we just saw and listened to it, it causes me again to wonder how many people, how many Americans are out there who are going to shrug their shoulders and say, you know what, I'm exhausted. This guy is exhausting me. This guy has been impeached twice. This guy has been adjudicated a rapist by a New York judge. This guy is a felon. He's got 5 or 6 felony counts against him. This guy cannot tell the truth. This guy twists everything, a reality, into something of his own concoction. I can't do it anymore. I'm not going to vote for him. I voted for him in 16, or say they voted for him in 20. How many Americans are out there saying, no, I want to talk about my children going forward, their schools, the safety of the schools. I want to talk about grocery prices. I want to talk about gas prices. I do not want to listen to him.
I mean, I think the exhaustion factor is real, and certainly the Harris campaign hopes it permeates the ballot box. At the same time, polls suggest that nearly half the country still on board with this, and that Donald Trump has a 1 in 2 chance of winning. What does that say about who we are?
Well, that's a great question, Jonathan. And I keep thinking that, 10, 20 years from now, when historians try to capture this period of time politically and culturally, what happened in this country, they're going to look at what has happened and what is happening right in front of us, in front of all of us right now. And they're saying, what was wrong with those people? What did they did not see? What did they did not recognize?
It's such an indictment. Let's move. Speaking of potential indictments, let's talk about Jack Smith. Yesterday, unsealing a filing that had a lot of new details about Trump's conduct on his efforts to overturn the 2020 election and his conduct on January 6th, particularly when it comes to Mike Pence, when he seemed that he was completely unmoved that his vice president's life was in danger. Does this qualify as an October surprise?
No, I don't think so. I think it qualifies as recognizing that Judge Chutkan is saying to the Supreme Court, take this. No one agrees with the ruling that you people concocted that declared that no president, every president has immunity from nearly everything. Take this. And it's just a kernel of what Jack Smith has found, apparently. I don't know whether it has an impact or not. I don't think it's the October surprise. I think the big October surprise is going to happen out of the Middle East.
Yeah, let's revisit that in just a second. On this, there's also an unnamed Trump campaign staffer who even said, make them riot, when there was some disturbances at a local campaign office. How much, if you were counseling the Harris campaign right now, how much would January 6th, defense of democracy, be one of your closing arguments? It worked for the Democrats in both 2020 and in 2022. President Biden drove that. Do you think it still will this time around?
Yeah, I do, because I think every day he will give you something else. Trump will give you something else. He'll give you another gift in terms of running against him. Depends on how the vice president packages it.
Okay, so let's go back to the Middle East. You know, we're sort of awaiting what Israel's response will be to the Iranian attack of earlier this week. It is Rosh Hashanah, Jewish New Year's, the sense that maybe it'll wait till after that. How big, you sort of alluded to it, that this could be something that changes the calculation here domestically. Do you think that's what Prime Minister Netanyahu has in mind?
Given his behavior towards this administration, both outwardly and what you certainly hear in Washington from people, what you pick up in terms of sources talking about the relationship between Netanyahu and the president, President Biden, yeah, I think Netanyahu has it in his mind that we're going to attack Iran. We're going to wipe out their oil refineries, which will cause gas prices to jump up here in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And I don't care what Joe Biden thinks. Now, that's what he thinks, okay? But when you look at it on paper, you've got to ask yourself, realistically, seriously, his country was attacked by a next-door neighbor. If we were attacked, we would strike back very, very, very hard. I mean, I would hope we would. That's what the Israelis are doing, and it's a tough balance, I think, to figure out both emotionally and politically for the United States of America.
And we'll have live reporting from the Middle East in just a moment on Morning Joe. And we'll see you on Morning Joe
really?
as well. Yeah,
You're going to ask me on?
You have to stay. It was a good booking for us. And